This is Tim Barry from Avail. You're listening to The New Scene.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The New Scene. I am your host, Keith, and we're back with another brand new episode. And on the show this week, we have John Maiello, vocalist of melodic punk band Dead Bars from Seattle. And if you don't know them yet, you really should. They just released a new LP called All Dead Bars Go to Heaven, which is out now on Iodine Recordings. And I was really grabbed by them the first time I heard their 2019 LP, Regulars. And John has a really interesting story. He tells us all about his upbringing in Central Jersey, all the steps he had to take to get Dead Bars together and make his mark in the world of music. We cover the recording of the new LP. We cover everything. It's a great conversation, and that's coming up shortly. But first, here's how you can support The New Scene. Rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a main channel with full video episodes and a clips channel with clips from select episodes. We have shirts for sale at our store at Death Wish Inc. Pick one up. It's a great way to support the show. And you can follow us on social media at New Scene Pod. Also, don't forget to support Iodine Recordings. And speaking of Dead Bars, look at this. All Dead Bars Go to Heaven. The new LP is out right now. There's 3 different vinyl variants, so go pick one up today. Iodine welcomes Blood Horse to the label. They've got a new EP coming this year. Blood Horse is a post-metal stoner rock band featuring members of American Nightmare, Cold Cave, The Red Chord, and All Pigs Must Die. Hundreds of AU have East Coast tour dates coming up. Check their page or the Iodine page for a full list of dates. And check out the new music video from Dead Bars for their single, I Live Here Now. For more information, head to iodinerecordings.com, sign up for the email list, and you can follow the label on Instagram at Iodine Recordings. And to say hello to our sponsor for the month of March, Evil Greed. In addition to their online store, Evil Greed offers tour merch, merch handling, and logistics services for tons of bands. They also offer merch and distribution solutions for bands and record labels in Europe and the UK. Evil Greed has a carefully selected roster of artists and labels in their online store. They offer very reasonable worldwide shipping rates specifically to the UK and the USA. All right, let's see what's going on at Evil Greed this week. We've got merch from Brutus, Knocked Loose, Drain. We've got new merch from Full of Hell. Sam from Full of Hell was just on the show recently. Look at all that. We've got new featured music from Steve Von Till, Alone in a World of Wounds. That's his new LP. We've got the Pain of Truth Tsunami Split 12-inch. The new LP from Death Heaven, Lonely People with Power. And we've got some LP reissues from Refused. You can check it out for yourself at evilgreed.net. Pick something up and follow Evil Greed on Instagram at evil_greed. Okay, so check back in with me in segment 3. We'll do a wrap-up of the conversation with John. I'll tell you everything that's going on with me. We'll do a recap of the recent Respire gig here in New York City. That was the first show they've ever played in New York City. We'll cover everything. But right now, we are going to speak to John Maiello of Dead Bars. Enjoy. All right, we are here now with John Maiello. John, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, John, it's great to have you here. There's exciting things happening in the world of Dead Bars. We've got All Dead Bars Go to Heaven coming out in a couple weeks on Iodine Recordings, and the band has been doing great things for quite a while now, and I'm excited to learn more. But John, first I want to ask you, how are you doing today?
Today I'm doing pretty good. It's been a kind of a little bit of a roller coaster of a year. Good stuff and not so bad stuff, but like as always, just kind of navigating the world. And luckily, I have things to look forward to with the new record.
Yeah, you said you were at work earlier.
I'm here right now, man. rock and
What do you
roll.
do?
So I work in a museum actually, and I do. I'm like an operations supervisor for a museum in Seattle, and so that could be. I mean, right now there's an event, so I was working an event, but it could be ticketing, it could be like there's a lot of tourism elements to it as well, and it's cool. I get to meet people from all over the world every single day. It's kind of like music stuff too.
Nice. What kind of is it? A music museum? What kind is it?
It is. It's actually a pop culture museum. So we some music stuff, but also like stuff about TV, film. We have art exhibit right now. We have a video game exhibit. So it's kind of like all aspects of pop culture, and it's really cool. It's something that I found myself really enjoying over the years.
Now that sounds interesting. What is in that video game exhibit? I've got to know.
So it's called Indie Game Revolution, and it's actually about like kind of DIY and independent game makers, and it's kind of focuses on that kind of world, and the exhibit features games from folks who are kind of DIY developers. It's actually really cool.
Yeah, I think that's the future for the gaming industry. That because the indie game developers haven't been corrupted by capitalism, and they can focus on things other than remakes or remasters or these big giant games where they sink in money and maybe it's good and maybe it's not.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it's kind of a cool kind of take, and especially like to highlight it in a museum, to showcase it in a museum atmosphere is kind of interesting.
I like that. You live in Seattle?
I do.
Did you grow up there?
No. I'm a transplant. Seattle is like a lot of transplants. Actually, probably every big city, I would assume, has a lot of transplants. But nope, I grew up on the East Coast. I'm Jersey, born and raised. And I moved out here when I was 22, and I've been out here ever since.
Where in Jersey?
I'm from a town called Rockaway, which is North Jersey. And, there's like a North Jersey. I do believe in a Central Jersey. Some people don't, but there's a Central Jersey and then South Jersey. So, like, depending on, like, where you grew up, like, culturally, it's a little bit different. So I identify, with more like North Jersey, New York City. Like, we were only 30 miles west of New York.
Yeah, I grew up in Philadelphia and the surrounding areas, so we're just trained to hate New Jersey from birth. It's just all New Jersey. And then, but then I moved to New York City when I was in 2012, and then you realize, like, oh, New York and New Jersey are kind of synonymous at times, and everyone here doesn't just automatically hate New Jersey. And like you said, there's a North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey. Now I know all of these things.
Yeah. That's cool. Like living the dream up in New York, huh? That's cool.
I love it. Yeah, I always wanted to move here, and I never thought it would be possible because I was a mess for a lot of my life and never had any money. But it happened because, my job, it happened because of my job. So I've been here for a while now, and I love it.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I've never lived there. But that's awesome, man.
Thank you. How did you like growing up in Jersey? How was it for you?
It was awesome. Yeah, looking back for sure, it's a great place to grow up. It was, it's kind of an interesting place because it's just all suburbs, and every town has its own kind of like vibe and world. And so there's not like one main city that people can identify with. It's like every town has its own kind of little thing going on. And then obviously you're just suburbs, like if you're in North Jersey, you're suburbs of NYC. If you're South Jersey, you're suburbs of Philadelphia. So it's like, you're kind of like just in a different like world. And in a good way, like you're kind of like wrapped up in this kind of like suburban kind of freedom a little bit, where you can kind of choose your own way. There's no like city defining your identity. That's why everybody's just like says like, I'm from New Jersey. It's not like I'm from Tampa or I'm from, Boston. Like they're, I would be shocked if people would say, the exact town that they're from, if they're referring to themselves, like on a national level. So it was cool. It was really cool. I mean, definitely like growing up for music stuff, it was, at least the time I was doing it, was like pretty, I would say a unique time for a couple of reasons, but like, it was like, there was, in my life at least, there were bands that like were like I saw play in my town, that like the next month or two was like on MTV. And so like the idea of like what could be like possible from just being like a local band, like for me, like I think is probably got like a little bit, skewed in a way, because like there was a lot happening at that moment, and it was like it seemed totally like possible to do that, because there was just a lot of that happening. So at that time when I was growing up, so that was really interesting and inspiring, to do that. It's cool.
Around what year was that happening? Tell me your experience, what shows you were going to, what bands you were seeing. I'm curious.
The one that I was just referring to was like a band called The Starting Line. Like I saw The Starting Line, like play. So the year is like maybe 2000, something like that. And I was young for sure, but that's when I started going to like local shows. I'd never been to a concert before. There's shows, like I said, happening in all these different towns, and so it's like there is stuff happening at like VFWs, Legion halls. I mean, it's the same story. I'm sure you interviewed a million people that are like, oh yeah, but that's it. You go to the Legion Hall shows or whatever, and that's the one that I remember. Like that's probably the earliest memory of like seeing a band that I saw in town, and then like maybe it wasn't a couple months later, but a year later for sure. Signed to Drive Through Records on TRL with Carson Daly, and it's like what, so that's totally kind of skews what's possible from all this. It's like as a 12 or 13-year old or however old I was. So that's the first kind of thing that I can remember. And honestly, I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, think about it, right? It's like My Chemical Romance, the guy in our band is also a Jersey guy, CJ. That's a whole different story. But I mean, he booked their first or second show. They became the biggest band in the world. The guy in my band booked their second show. So it's like it's just crazy. So there was a lot of that type of stuff kind of going on,
With My Chemical Romance specifically, I've mentioned this before. It is crazy. Like, just you never know how things are going to go, because I've seen this old My Chemical Romance set on YouTube from, I think, Fireside Bowl, and they look and sound just like any other band we would have seen at that time. And the heights they took it to is just unbelievable. They were like the biggest band in the world.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like that flyer, it's been posted on like the New Jersey Hardcore like Instagram and New Jersey Hardcore archives or whatever, the Instagram. And that flyer from that show is like the headliner is like Folly, of course, and then like the banner, and then like all there's like 6 bands on the show, and then it's like My Chemical Romance, is like the smallest band. People share that flyer, and it's like we booked that show, It's like that's the crazy kind of like honestly like legacy of like how long some of us have been doing this, where it's like we might probably a new band to a lot of your listeners, I would think. I wouldn't think that many that too many people know us. That's why we're doing this, to get the word out for sure. But no, I mean, we've been doing it a long time, man.
Were you in bands in Jersey?
I was nothing too notable. I was just in a like high school band, like crusty punk like stuff, which was awesome. I loved it, and I wish we had better recordings of that. And then kind of like went into maybe like some of like whatever the post-hardcore stuff was happening, like kind of melodic hardcore that was pretty happening. And then that was like high school bands. And then after that, I some people from that high school band joined up with a friend, my friend's older brother, who became my friend. And so he was established already. He was doing a lot of things in the scene, and so we ended up starting a band. So it was like two guys who were like maybe 4 or 5 years older than us, who had been established, and then like I was like 18, and that band was called Red Light Green Light, and that might have been the one that like we did a lot of stuff. Like we played Bamboozle Festival twice. I opened for like every band. Like we were like that. We were the classic like you need a local opener. Like we did that, and then that kind of ended after a few years. And then just a lot was happening at that time personally, because it was like so like the year it was like 2009. I was doing that band all throughout. I was going to college, and I was just like kind of in school, like not really knowing what was going on. And then the band was kind of like was probably breaking up, and I was graduating from school, and it's 2009. There's a Great Recession. There's like, I'm looking around, I'm like, there's nothing going on. Like no one's like thinking like starting a band. Everyone's like worried about like, finding a job and stuff like that. And just wasn't really feeling like there was anything happening for me at that time out there, and just made a really impulsive decision. And me and a couple friends ended up moving out here. And the idea was just like, oh, we can not have jobs out there. We can just, it's like, well, if we're going to hang out here, maybe we'll just go hang out over there and, maybe start playing music over there. That's really all that it was. Like, so I came out here, I didn't have no money, no job, nowhere to live. And you figure it out. Been here for 15 years.
How old were you when you made that move?
22.
Wow. So you moved to Seattle with no job. How'd you find a place to live? Like, how'd you get set up? What'd you do?
Yeah, so I didn't come out by myself. It was me and a couple friends. All we were gonna like start a band out here, which was cool. It was like drove our cars, came out. We had a place to live for a month. So it was like a monthly rental kind of thing. And then it was like, oh, we'll find a job and then we'll get another place. And turned out it was a little bit harder than that. And so we ended up, it took me a little bit of time, but I ended up getting a job here. I'm still at the same place. I work at the museum. I do some different stuff, but so I ended up getting a job at the museum, and then we needed to find a real apartment, and then we ended up subleasing four of us subleasing a 1-bedroom apartment from this girl that we met who was like breaking up with her boyfriend, and they were both on the lease, and she was just like, I need to get out of this place. And so it's like all four of us moved into this 1-bedroom apartment. I mean, my rent was like $175, like you can make it work, man. Like you tell this story, it's like, oh, it's really expensive. Yeah. I mean, of course it's expensive, but like if 4 people are living in a 1-bedroom apartment, like you can make it work.
Yeah. Everywhere is expensive, but depending on how many sacrifices you're willing to make, you can do it. You can sleep in a living room in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 other people. You can do it.
Yep, and that's exactly what I did. I kind of like made the dining room, like I kind of like walled it off and like had like a dresser in there, and had my bed, and so I kind of lived over in the corner over there, and somebody took this big walk-in closet. That was their bedroom, and then somebody took the living room, and somebody took the bedroom. I mean, that's how it went. I mean, it is kind of. I think you do have to be in a certain maybe age and mindset to like do that, but we had no other choice. Like we knew we were just kind of trying to make something happen, so we're gonna make something happen.
Yeah. I had a similar situation in Philly. It was four of us, I think, and my friend lived in what was basically a walk-in closet. And then I had a room that was like $450 a month. You can make it work. Yeah, that time was interesting. 2010 in my mind is like a stake in the ground of like changing times. That's when that everything changed. Just I don't my life became more messy. I wanted to become more responsible at work so I could actually start making money, and I did that, but my life also got really messy in a lot of ways. I feel like the music scene changed. I feel like a lot of things changed. Like 2010 in my mind is just like this is the beginning of change.
It's definitely a big change for me. I don't really know what was happening with this like music scene. I mean, because like I was kind of like I thought I was gonna like come out and start something. Things were gonna start happening, but like no, it takes a little while to get like your feet on the ground. It took a couple of years for me, so that's like the only kind of downside to some of this, where it's like I wasn't really able to just come out here and hang out and start playing music. It's like we had to find some income and find a place to live and get established a little bit before any of that happened. So but I mean, things take time. And so basically what I'm saying is like I don't really remember 2010 to 2012 in terms of like what's going on. I was kind of living a little wild life there for a little bit, but I'm sure there was fun stuff. I'm sure there was good music happening. I really don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of checked out too. Was that what you wanted to do? Was that the only thing you had in mind? Like, I want to play, I want to be in a band?
Pretty much. I don't, yeah, I mean, short answer, yes. I mean, I didn't want to be homeless. And so like, it wasn't like, just be on the road, 300 days a year and just that I didn't want to do that. But I mean, I definitely wanted to like, come out to the city that was like, had, kind of a music scene happening and like get something cooking, but also have a job and like make sure that like I have a roof over my head, like partying. Like I didn't want to lose out on that stuff too. So like, but yeah, I mean, like the goal was to like make a band and make something happen for sure.
So you're in Seattle, you're 22, we're getting things established. What happens? Do other bands, are you in other bands before Dead Bars? Like, how does it happen? What happens?
Yes. So bands in New Jersey, all the bands I was in, I'm a drummer. I've been a drummer since every band I was ever in. I've been a drummer. So that's what I was doing out there. Moved out here with a couple friends with the intention I was going to play drums in our band, the band that we were going to start together. That ended up, we did kind of start it, but it ended up like people's, we like the goals, we weren't aligned. Ultimately, we weren't aligned in our goals. And so that kind of ended. And then that really kind of, a little bit was, I don't know what to do because we had kind of come out here that we were going to do this together type thing. So, yeah. So basically, I was like not finding things weren't really working, like doing kind of the bands like when I was trying to start something myself or with friends. And so I was just like, maybe I'll just try to join a band. And I ended up kind of getting into this project called the Hunting Club, which I was also just playing drums in, and it was cool. It was definitely not like a punk band. It was more of like an Americana, like kind of like rock kind of band, indie rock, I guess. I would say like something like Jesse Malin, or it even had. They really liked. Oh man, what was the group from Louisville? Oh man, I can't remember. Natural Child, Natural Child. So it was kind of like that, like kind of a rootsy, like rock and roll kind of singer songwriter thing. It was great, and same thing though. Like got to the point where it's like we write the songs, we made the record. I end up pressing the vinyl, and it got to the point where it was like, okay, cool. Well, let's do a tour. Let's kind of promote this. And it just wasn't, the goals and the vision was just kind of off. And like the singer, I remember, was just like, I don't know if I want to do that tour. I just kind of want to go back to school and marry my girlfriend. And I was just like, what? Like, like you put in a lot of work and time, and like I'm just built differently, I guess. And so that was definitely like an eye-opening moment where I was like, I don't know if I could just like join other people's bands or kind of be in the background as like a drummer. And so I just kind of had this like realization, like maybe I just need to be like a front person, and maybe I need to kind of be a little bit more in control, like creatively, into like the vision, and then get people that want to join that vision, which was difficult, or is difficult, I think, if you're leading the band as a drummer. It's not impossible. I mean, Bill Stevenson and Descendants, obviously it's like very much his band, and he drives the force of that, so it can be done. But when Maiello didn't want to do it anymore, they did have that problem. The Descendants couldn't just get another singer as the Descendants; they had to basically start another band with a different singer, call it All, and so there is a challenge when the kind of front person is not available. So that's why I was like, well, if I'm available, and I'm kind of like built for, this is like kind of I guess they call it like lifer. It's like there is no other options. I kind of just was like, I guess I'm just gonna like start my own, front my own band, and that's the origin. That's kind of the idea, at least. But the problem is I didn't know how to sing. I didn't know how to play guitar. I didn't know how to write a song. And so um, I kind of just started with the very, like, almost no knowledge, and basically, I knew what sounded good. I always knew it sounded good in my head. I would always be in bands. I'd be like, it sounds like this, and I kind of like hum something. So I knew like music in that sense, but I never knew how to execute it. And the first batch of Dead Bar songs are all written one string, one finger, E string, just like coming up with a progression and just kind of writing the song. And all the first 6 Dead Bar songs are written that way, just on one string.
If you have the willpower, if you have the drive, you can just get it done. Like, look what you did with writing those songs on just one string to get things started. And it can be really difficult to find the people too. Like, it's so weird the way people in bands work sometimes. You reminded me while you were telling your story. The first band I really tried to put together, I was the singer, guitar player, and we had someone in the band who, long story short, we got to the studio and I realized he never wrote his parts. Like he just never wrote his parts. And then I gave him one more chance after that. I was like, learn the parts. And he was like, okay. And then he didn't do it again. So I was like, hey, you're out. And he was like, well, I don't really want to do this anyway. I mean, it's not like high on my list of things to do. But why would you come to practice for a month, go to Pennsylvania with us, record, and then show up to practice again if you don't want to do it? Like what? Like with your guy, like why record a whole record and do this whole thing if you don't want? I just don't get it.
I honestly think that people are just built differently, and I think that like that band that I joined had been around for like 10 years. Like it was 2 singer-songwriters that were high school friends and wrote like kind of like they were just 2 acoustic guitars, and then they wanted to start like a rock band version of it. And that's what I said, like when I joined that band, and it was very apparent that I was like, oh, you guys don't know how to do a band. And so I kind of like started being like, okay, well, I know how we can get in the studio, or like I can help us do this. And they were like kind of along for the ride. But then you realize like, oh, like if it hadn't happened, if nobody's like drive was there from the get-go, like bringing somebody like me in just kind of keeps elevating it till it gets to the point where it's just like, this is never what I wanted to do. I just wanted to sit in my room with my friend and play guitar. That's what you realize. And so people are just built differently. No fault to them, but like that's just not how I'm wired. Like I told you, it's like old school, man. It's write the songs, record, make a record, press a record, go on tour,
and then see what happens, you know?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I want to take whatever the thing is, I want to take it as far as it can go, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. So you get these songs together, these initial demos. What happens next? How do you find people? How does it come together?
So, wrote pretty much all of those first batch of songs, definitely the first 4, maybe the first 6, literally on just the one string, and was like singing the melody and like even like came up with the guitar part, the guitar parts in my head and stuff like that. And then at some point, somebody was like, if you drop your E string, and make it a D, and then it can be DAD, you could still use just your one finger. And then if you use those 3 strings, like you got a power chord. And I was like, that was life changing. I was like, I can play guitar. I can really play guitar now. I was like, so then I was like, all right, well, now that I wrote the songs, I was like, I already know how to play drums. Maybe I'll just do the thing where I like go into the studio and like just like Dave Grohl it and just like I'll play everything. And so that's what I did. I went in the studio and played drums, played bass, just the one finger, just the low string with my bass, one finger. I actually taped the bottom 3 strings so that so that it would just basically mute them, so that when I was obviously playing wrong notes, but I'm like, I'm in the studio, I need to make sure it's right. So it's just that one string. And then did the same thing, but in drop D. So I'm playing these power chords, and I did the whole first demo that way, and then sang. And then I did get a friend to come in and play the leads that I wrote, that were in my head. I was like, it goes like this, and like my friend kind of came in and played that. And I had that demo for about a year, and I just didn't think I was good enough or ready to do anything with it, or I was very unsure and uncertain about stuff, and people ended up hearing it, and just a lot of people in my life were like, you should like play a show, you should do this band. And I was like, it's not a real band, this is just something I did like just for me. And then at some point, there was an opportunity to play a show. Someone asked me to do the show, and I was like, okay, maybe we can just do one show, just so that these songs can have like the see the light of day. And so I recruited just some friends from work, actually, at the museum. Like I just walked around work and was just like, do you guys want to play the show, learn the songs? And I kind of recruited a band, and then so we ended up playing our show. It was March of 2013. It was just 6 songs. It was awesome. It was like amazing, and people were so stoked. And like a bunch of people that had been around me for a long time, for the couple years that I lived out here, like pulled me aside and was just like, "You should focus on this. You should really focus on this." And it just kind of was like, I never had that before. I never had, after a first show, somebody like really like basically encourage me to keep doing this particular project. So then the whole saga of everyone who did that show just signed up for the one show and didn't really, was like, I don't want to make this a real band. And so then I ended up recruiting some people, and that's when I met CJ, who's still in the band, and he's another Jersey guy that weirdly we met out here, which is crazy. But he ended up playing drums in the band, and I recruited a bunch of people, and the story goes on. But we've had kind of people that come in and out, but the same group has been in the band for like the last like 7 years, and I mean I couldn't do it without them at this point. So it's very much a real band now.
That's pretty amazing that you put together this demo and people encouraged you to play a show to the point where you finally did it, right? Because I mean, there's been tons of times in my life where I did things and they didn't work out, or people didn't care, or I didn't care, or whatever, but it just kept getting pushed forward. People kept encouraging you to play the show. You played the show. People told you to focus on it. It's pretty incredible, I think.
It is. And it's like, it's the only way I can describe it is like, it's the most honest I had been up until that point. It was like, it was the most honest music that came from the most honest place. And maybe people just respond to that. Like there was nothing fake about it, you know? And so maybe just, and, I mean, also, like I said it before in some other interviews too, it's like this band, the unique thing, I think, I don't know if you'll ever interview anybody else that this is the case, but like every single song I've ever written in my entire life is cataloged in dead bars. So, like the first four songs I ever wrote, that is the Dead Bars EP that's available that people can listen to. I mean, I would guess that almost every single one of your guests wrote their first song when they're 13, 14, 15, and nobody knows about it. It's thrown away. And then they they realize, oh, that wasn't a good song, and move on. Like I have this, what I think is, it's amazing because like if you're a listener or a fan, and if you didn't know that, I'm telling you guys right now, it's like you can really hear the growth and the evolution of the songwriting. And people would sometimes be like, your like vocals, like they're like kind of like they're like screaming, or like they're like kind of singing, like what are you going for? And I was just like, I'm trying to sing, I just don't know how to, like, and that's like so when you hear, like, definitely on our first stuff, like I am stretching for that note, I'm like trying to get there, I just don't know what I'm doing. And I think that if you didn't know that, maybe people would be like, "Oh, this is weird. Like this is kind of like flat, or this is a little bit off." And it's like, yeah, it is. I was trying my best, but that's the best part about this band is it's all documented. And like again, I don't know if you can interview anybody else that's like the story. It's like the first song I ever wrote is the first song off of the EP.
That is interesting. Yeah, because I'm thinking back to the past 20 years. There's tons of songs I wrote that never went anywhere or became anything. And I'm sure that's the case with a lot of musicians.
I would think virtually everybody. I don't know anybody that I can't think of a single person, because like I've been in bands forever. So it's not like I was, it wasn't new to being in a band, but totally new, totally new to, like, I'd never wrote a song ever until this band. So.
And what you did is what you have to do if you want to take control of things. Because I've been in your situation where that's been my life. I've been a person in a band, guitar player, bass player. It falls apart. Someone leaves. I get kicked out. Whatever happens, it just never works out. And not until now, where I became like the main creative driving force and singer/guitar player, has it stayed together. And, and that doesn't guarantee it's going to work out either. Because I've also been in the situation where you put the band together and then everyone leaves and you just can't find new people, and then it's just dead.
Yeah, it's, I don't know what to say. Like, I never thought that way. It was just, I had no choice. That's the only way I can, like, and that's probably maybe one of the things that maybe is, like, I won't say hurts us, but maybe has had maybe a negative, is that because it was so immediate, and it was like it had to be written, recorded, put on a record, and then like we had to play shows, and then it was on to the next thing. And it's like, maybe we should have, like, saved some money and went into a proper recording studio. You can't go back, but I'm like, every single recording up until I guess the last two has been in like a kitchen or a practice space. Like it was like our friend came over, our first album was recorded in our guitar player's kitchen, and people think it sounds good, and I do think it sounds good, but it's not a studio album. It's like, it's recorded in a house, and it's like there wasn't a lot of time, there wasn't a lot of money, so now I think we are a little more conscious of, like, let's make sure that we're putting our best foot forward in terms of like what we're presenting, because the songs are always there. I believe in the songs. I think that, like, it was so immediate that we didn't really focus on some of the other aspects, like production or performance. We were just like, sounds good. Let's go.
You said maybe people reacted to it because, you put everything into it. It's the most honest you've been, right? So what did you put into it? And did it differ? Did your approach differ from maybe other things you were involved with?
Yeah, I mean, what I put into it was like, I was expressing myself in musically that I never had been able to do because I was always in bands where it was like a little bit just not the exact type of music that I wanted to play. And like, so this I was able to be like, it was a lot more of my real influences, like the things from when I was like a kid, like foundational stuff, um, like Green Day, Blink-182, or like, like that's all in there, but also like classic rock and like, just things. So it was a mixture of all of that. Then the lyrics, I can't explain it, but for some reason, like the only way that made sense to me to write a song was just thinking about a story that something that happened to me. Very much people would describe it as like slice of life, There might not even be a beginning, there might not even be an end. It's just like this is a moment in time, and this song is going to commemorate that moment in time. And you don't know how it started and you don't know how it ends. It's just this is what it is. And a lot of my songs are like that. People are like the people that like listen and like are fans. Like sometimes are like, wow, like you just kind of like come in from nowhere and then it just ends, and I don't know what happens, And it's like that's kind of intentional. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just have it be a honest reflection of where I was at that moment. That's what the earliest songs were, that for sure.
Yeah. So you get the lineup together. What happens next? Do you start playing locally? Do you get out in the Seattle area? Like, what happens?
I mean, this is where things definitely, I would say, are kind of like probably different for other bands. Like, so we played that one show, and then I got a different group together, and then we started playing around Seattle. We probably played like 3 shows, 4 shows, something like that. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to re-record the demo with the band, with the people that I was playing with. I didn't want it to just be like Foo Fighters, um, first record where it's like, I didn't want it to just be me. My dream was to have a band. I didn't want it to be a solo project. I just had to do that to kind of like give the vision or whatever. And so what we did is we went in to re-record all of those 6 songs that were on the original demo with me, CJ, the drummer at the time. He plays guitar in the band now. And then my friend Andrew from work, who I still work with, who was playing guitar in the band. And then I actually played bass and I played rhythm guitar on it as well as sang on that first demo. Because we really didn't have like permanent bass player or permanent rhythm guitar at that time, but I was assembling, I had CJ, I had Andrew, so I'm like, okay, this is good enough where it's going to be a little bit different. And so that was real early on. That was like, we'd only played a few shows and I wanted to re-record that stuff. We recorded it got done, and I thought it was awesome. I thought it was like probably the best thing that I had ever been a part of, and everyone agreed. And we're like, should we send this to a label? Like that'd be kind of weird because we're like a very new band, but maybe we should like send it to some labels. And so we had like a list of like 20 labels, and like the first label on the list was No Idea Records, who we were huge fans of. They put out a lot of our favorite bands. I mean, obviously like Hot Water Music and Against Me and stuff like that, and Less Than Jake. And so like that was just on the list. That was number one. And we sent it off, the demo or whatever, like the recording, to No Idea. And maybe maybe like 6 hours later, like I'm not even kidding, maybe like we got fucked up, and at like midnight or something we like sent them an email And then at like 5 o'clock in the morning that next day, we got a message back that was just like, actually a text message, not even an email back, a text message that was like, howdy, it's on. I mean, so that, like if you're talking about like a movie moment, like that's the movie moment in the band. Like, I spent all my life sending demos to record labels. Nothing ever. I mean, you send things and like, so really big validation for me. I'm like, whoa, like this is something that like I'm pouring my heart and soul into. And the first label, our number one choice, we had subsequent conversations, but essentially they released our first four records. Doesn't even still to this day, it's we'd only played 5 shows or something, and now we're on No Idea Records.
That is wild. Like that quick of a response. I love it.
Yeah, so the dude, basically, I was like, what happened? That's kind of crazy. And basically, he's an early riser. So we're on the West Coast, they're on the East Coast. We sent it off at like whatever, midnight or something like that. And we got a response like 5 hours later. And so he just said, he's like, yeah, I just woke up. I was at Disney World with my kids. I was in the hotel and I opened my email and yours was the first email. And I clicked on it and I listened to the first song, and he's like, I was like surprised that I liked it. And then he said that he had his headphones on because he was in the hotel with his family, and he said that he unplugged his headphones and was listening to it on just the computer, and that his wife was like, "This is really good. What is this?" And then that's when he was just like, "That's the sign. I need to just." He's like, I don't need anything more than that. Like someone who's never heard it before, like just made a comment. And then that's how it went down.
Pretty incredible, right? It's like, it's supposed to happen. All these things just keep lining up, and it's like, this is it. It's happening.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, that was all that we ever wanted, at that point. Like we thought, yeah. So we put out an EP, we put out 2 splits, and we put out a full-length album all on that label. So, and I think, they're not really active anymore, but I think that we might be. I don't know. Someone on Discogs should check, but I think we're the last catalog number. I think Dead Bar's Dream Gig is the last record. It's so wild to think about. I think it might be the last catalog number of No Idea Records, and it's like 350 or something like that. So many records.
I read that it was the last new record out on No Idea Records, which pretty amazing too, right?
If that's verified, yeah, I thought so, but if that's verified, that's awesome. Yeah, it's really possible. It's crazy. If it wasn't the last one, it was the last. It was the last. It was either the last 2 or 3 for sure. It was because then everything kind of stopped happening, and yeah, yeah, whatever things, people move on and stuff, but yeah, really, that's how in terms of like, if you're asking like what happened and how do we kind of start, like it, for me, it was like, that's when it really was like, okay, we're taking this seriously. You know what I'm saying?
What happened to the other guys you moved to Seattle with?
I'm still friends with them. They kind of chose a different path. I work with one of the guys. He lives in my building. Actually, he lives upstairs, which is funny. So I've known him for my whole life, pretty much. And then my other friend just went into a different career, and everybody still like is into music and stuff. But I think people get older and they kind of are like this. I need to do something else. And one of the guys, he's actually went back to school and is now a like licensed music therapist. So still doing music, but like doing therapy with people with disabilities and really helping a lot of people. And so that's like amazing. So he's doing music therapy. And my other friend works in the museum with me, and and just hanging out. And so they're around. I'm still close with all of them. Actually, we're all still here, which is crazy.
So how did you end up on Iodine Recordings?
Iodine. So we we done we're the type of band that we just never stopped releasing material. So like even when we were quote unquote signed or whatever, we were never like exclusive to any label. So even though we put some stuff out on No Idea, like right after that, we put a record out on this Japanese label, and then right after that we put out a record on this UK label, and then we put out a record on Rad Girlfriend Records out of Ohio, our friends, and then we put out a record on this Italian label, and we just kept putting out singles, 7 inches, splits, and then we put out our second album, Regulars, and then that record ended up selling out. And COVID happened and all this other stuff, and and then we were kind of like looking for another home for the repress of the second album, and also looking for someone to do another album with us. And we ended up, I think a friend of a friend somehow connected us. And same thing, I don't think I heard back from any of them for like 6 months or a year or something like that. Like, nobody, I don't know if we just got missed or something like that, but at some point when timing was just right, we got in touch, and then there was an agreement to reissue Regulars, our second album. So actually that's like available now on Iodine. You can actually get the second album, and that's impressing again, which is great. And then we just started talking, let's talk new record. And then we ended up working out an arrangement with them to do a third full length, and that's where we're at. I mean, it really was just someone introduced me to Casey, I think, and then I don't think I heard back from him for like a long time, like a year or something. So I don't know. Maybe we were there was a buzz or something, and he heard about it, or maybe we got missed in the inbox. I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
I know him, and I think maybe you just got missed in the inbox. It can get pretty backed up.
Totally. Yeah. So we just got missed maybe. And then at one point he was just like, yo, interested? Let's talk. It was pretty much that short. And so I'm really stoked. I really like our place on that label actually. And actually really like being the type of band we are, like kind of like a melodic punk band on more of like a hardcore kind of label, because like we play with so many heavy bands that like and we just identify more with heavy bands, that I think that folks definitely in the metal world too, but like hardcore too, I think they can identify with what we're putting out because it just feels good. It's like it's music that is real, and like if you're too hardcore or too metal to like fuck with Dead Bars, then like I mean that's your problem. I mean, I think that we are for everybody, but particularly if you're into heavy music, I think it's like a fun kind of escape from that. And I've gotten so many good feedback. I mean, like, we play a show like with some metal bands, and the guy in a Cannibal Corpse hockey jersey comes up to me and is just like, you're the best metal singer I've ever seen. He doesn't even know we're not a metal band, because like I don't, it's just like because we shred and stuff, and so we're just kind of doing our thing, and I'm just like, cool, man, that's awesome, thanks. So I do like our place on Iodine, and I appreciate everything that they've done for us, and they're keeping us going, and we're super stoked to have a new album out.
Yeah, I think there's something to it because people keep taking notice, and rightfully so. Now, I listen to a lot of dreary post-hardcore, post-grunge, screamo, hardcore, metalcore, all that stuff. That's my world, right? All of that. I don't listen to a ton of bands that sound like Dead Bars, like the more melodic punk, Avail style, all that stuff. But when I listened to Dead Bars for the first time, it grabbed me. It was instantly stuck in my head. I got the musical chills when I heard Freaks for the first time. It really is something else, like something special, I think.
Man, that means a lot, like to me, because that's like really why I continue to do this, because like I have that experience with other bands too, where it's like music, it really is something that just like sticks with you and like can help, it like can like heal you. and help you and stuff. And so if there's a connection that's being made, that's really cool. I would say too that like I would challenge anybody in your audience or you or whatever, like, who do we sound like? I don't think we sound like anybody. I think we sound so uniquely Dead Bars that, like, to our fault, like I think that like people don't know where to put us. And because there is kind of a lot going on still within, I mean, what I would say is melodic punk for sure, like, but I mean, that's so much, but uh, who do we sound like? I don't think, I think we're completely kind of standing alone. And I'd rather have that than be like compared to some where it's like, oh, this sounds like this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly unique, and I encourage everybody to check it out. So we have the new LP coming out this month, All Dead Bars Go to Heaven. Did you record that with Jack Shirley?
No, we recorded it with our friend Evan at No Count Studios in Seattle, and me and him kind of co-produced it together, with help from the band for sure. But like me and Evan were kind of driving force in that, and then Jack Shirley mastered it, so he's involved for sure. But no, we recorded it in Seattle with Evan, and me and him kind of co-produced it. We recorded with Jack and Dino once, and he's like, I mean, he recorded Nirvana and all the grunge bands and stuff. So that's like was kind of funny to like be in there and like hear like the first thing you hear when you walk in the room with him. He's like, "That's the Bleach amp." It's like, that's cool. So it's, and then he loved it, and it was cool working with him. But so get a little bit of, that's a little Seattle kind of a little grunge kind of legacy thing happening. But it was cool working with him. But no, this one, it was like Evan Foster, No Count Studios in Seattle. We wanted to do it local. We thought about traveling. We thought about maybe going somewhere to do it, but we wanted to do it local. And I was really I was like pretty intense on like, I know how I want this to sound. And so the band was like, you should just like be like the producer essentially. So that's kind of how it went down.
I forgot about the whole Nirvana thing for a second. It's like Seattle, Nirvana. Of course, there's going to be history there.
Totally. I mean, that is absolutely part of the history. Like we're like, we're, I mean, it's hella corny because, I'm not really a huge like grunge fan. But I love living out here. Like Seattle has so much other types of music going on, but I do like Nirvana a lot. And it was cool hearing stories about, and I've met Chris before, and I met Dave like one time, but like I actually like got drunk with Chris one time, which was awesome. He's like around, he's like he lives like the Pearl Jam guys and Soundgarden and Chris all are still like around.
Yeah. You'll like see them sometimes?
You'll see them around, yeah.
I like that everyone's still there. So All Dead Bars Go to Heaven. What's the approach with this record? Is there a central theme? Do you tackle things based on song? Like, what's your approach?
So this record, like in the context, is really like we released Regulars in 2019. We played a bunch of shows. We went on a lot of tours, and then like we had all these plans in 2020, like everybody had, and then it's like it just didn't work out. We had to take a break, and when we came back, whatever it was, like I forget how long we kind of took off. The first thing I kind of asked everybody was like, does everyone still want to do this? Because this is the first time we had a chance to like actually like take a break, and so not only did everybody say they still wanted to do this, but like everybody was like, we like feel like we didn't really get a chance to like do everything we needed to do with Regulars. So let's keep playing shows, but let's make a new record. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, well, now that we're all in this together and we reaffirm that together, I am going to ask, if anybody has anything that they want to bring to the table, like I'm open to hearing it. So this is the first record where like really other people contributed a lot, other people brought songs. And so that's like the biggest difference is that about half of the record like isn't my songs. But the difference is that people didn't just say, "Oh, I have a song." Folks that brought stuff to the table were like, "I wrote a Dead Bars song," which is like a huge compliment because they were writing it thinking about me singing or thinking about how we were going to present it as a band instead of just like, "Oh, I have a song, like is this good?" It was like they had a bunch of songs. They all write songs, but like they intentionally brought stuff. They're like, "I wrote a Dead Bars song." And so that was really exciting. And so stuff that connected with me, it doesn't even feel like it's not my song. It feels like it was written for me to sing, which it was. And so that's the biggest difference. And then, I mean, we didn't have a vision, like I didn't have the title and I didn't know what this record was about. And I'm not really super into that much pre-planning. So you just write a bunch of songs and then you get in the studio and then you don't know what you have until you kind of are able to like look back and reflect on it. And so that's what we did. And we went and recorded a bunch. And then by the time I'm kind of looking at what we have, everything started to make sense. And I had this idea about all dead bars go to heaven. And there was all these themes of the first song is I want to be a ghost, and so what does that mean? Afterlife, spirits, and then we have, songs about, reflecting on your past, looking back, looking forward. And so all of it kind of like told a story that wasn't clear to me at the beginning, but it started to become more clear. And I started thinking about like, okay, well, this isn't about, all of this is about, where we were. And then it kind of ends about where we're heading. And it's not about death. That's the one thing that is I want to make super clear. This, heaven in terms of like what is represented on this album is supposed to, or I believe that it's about like life, and that heaven is about eternal life. I know it sounds corny, but it's about like we could have stopped, like it could have been dead, but now uh, we are going to basically made a commitment. We're going to do this forever, and that is symbolically kind of like what we're saying.
I like that. It's good that we're still together, right? Now we're doing it. We've got the new record. We've got some tour dates coming up, right? I saw that you're going to be out there with Rebuilder.
Correct. Yep. We got some tour dates in the Northwest in March. I don't know when this is airing, but we're just kind of doing some show. Like, hey, we got a new record coming out, so we're like, let's do something easy, So we're doing like small towns. We're doing Yakima, Washington, Corvallis, Oregon, Portland, Oregon. We just got done doing. We're just in Vancouver, BC. We just did Oakland, California. We just did San Diego, LA. So we've been hitting a lot of the West Coast. So that's all happening, or the Northwest stuff is happening in March. And then we have record release shows in April. The record comes out March 21st. We got record release shows in April. The first one is in Boston on April 18th. Then it's New York City, April 19th. And then that following week, we're going to do Vancouver, BC again, record release show, and Seattle, Washington, record release show. So those are the tour dates. You can get all the tickets at deadbars.com. You can find all the info for like record stuff at deadbars.com. And we're stoked that, we're just stoked to we're just stoked to be here. And like, feel incredibly lucky that like you talked about being in different groups where like, like the guy didn't even learn his parts or something like that, and it's like this, like, we're at the point now where like everybody says yes to everything. And so like, that means that I'm the luckiest person ever because, it's tough. I mean, we're all work full time. Some people have families and we also basically say yes to every single tour that we ever get offered. And, we don't have a team. We don't have a booking agent. We don't have, it's just me pretty much. And so like, I look at it as like, we have to say yes. I mean, listen, man, like if there's someone out there that like has, room on their roster, I mean, we want to tour, this band's ready to to get out there. But we're only doing so much as we can. We do a lot of shows, but any tour that kind of comes our way, we're saying yes. And so that's like the greatest. Like, I can't ask for anything better than that, and that's where we're at, and that's where we're going to keep going.
Excellent. That's what you need to do to make it happen, and you're doing it. And I hope a lot more people get exposed to you after All Dead Bars Go to Heaven comes out, because I love the band. It's super catchy, super great music. It's going to be great for springtime. So, John, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'm looking forward to more.
Hey, thank you, Keith. Thanks to the New Scene for having us. And hopefully I can come back and we can chat more, because this is really cool.
And there you have it, John Maiello. Excellent conversation. I'm really digging Dead Bars. I love the new record. I hope everybody checks it out. And I thought the most fascinating part of that conversation was all the steps John took to get the band started. I mean, he didn't even play guitar. And he mapped it all out in his head and played everything on one finger and got the people together and got in the studio and recorded it and made his vision a reality. And that's what you need to do, because I remember being in his position, feeling like I had something to offer, feeling like I had some kind of artistic vision, but the band never matched what I wanted to do, or the band didn't work out, or I joined someone else's band and it just wasn't quite what I was looking to do. And I finally settled into more things that I wanted to do, and things worked out. And John is doing that too with Dead Bars. And that's what you have to do. I mean, that's what you have to do. You just have to get it done one way or another. And John did that. And it was really interesting talking to him. And I'm glad things are working out. So I wish them continued success. I can't wait for a lot more people to discover them. And thank you so much, John, for coming on the show. So let's check in. How are we doing? I am doing okay. Things are busy here as usual. I'm gearing up for 2 memory entry shows this weekend. We've got our record release show in Brooklyn. That's tomorrow night, Friday. And then we've got another show in Philadelphia Saturday. I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm really looking forward to both, but playing Philly is going to be cool too, because it'll be our first show outside of New York City. So I'll have a recap of that weekend coming up in a later episode. But some news for the show. I think this will be the last year that this podcast happens every single week, because I just can't keep up with it anymore. Things are a lot different than they were 5 years ago when this show started. My day job is busier. My life is different. I'm in this band now, which I would like to put a lot more time and energy into. You know, it's not like the pandemic where I'm just sitting here all day by myself, and the only thing I have to do is put one show together and then play video games for the rest of the day or the week or whatever. You know, life is a lot different. My life is a lot different now than it was 5 years ago, and things have changed a lot. And on top of that, even if they weren't busy and even if things weren't different, like I can't just sit in front of computers for 14 hours a day eating takeout anymore. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I would like to clean my apartment. I would like to cook once in a while. I would like to maybe go outside more. I don't know, but I'm not going to be able to keep up anymore. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to keep up for the rest of this year, but I'm committed to finishing out this year of having this show be every single week. And then after that, I'm going to move to whenever I can do it. I don't know what that'll look like. Maybe it'll be once a month. Maybe it'll be 2 times a month. Maybe it'll still be 4 times a month sometimes if there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know, but I think 5 years of nonstop weekly shows is a damn good run, and the show will still be here. I still want to do it. I just can't do it every single week anymore. So listen, thank you everybody who has stuck with me through this crazy, crazy journey. This show has given me everything. You know, this show got me back into music, which is something that I imagined that I wanted to do, but never thought would happen. After I tried to put together my previous band, The Basement Year in 2017, and that whole thing fell apart, I thought I was done. I thought I would never play music again. And the fact that I am now just brings me joy every day. So that's great. But the show will still be here It's just that the schedule will change. So there's that. I did recently see Respire play their first New York City show at Gold Sounds here in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago. The lineup was Our Wits That Make Us Men, Strega Nona, Stay Inside, So Hideous, and of course, Respire, headlining the show. And Gold Sounds is a venue here in the Bushwick section of Brooklyn. Decent venue, great lineup, and a great show. Very awesome to see Stay Inside again. I had Chris Johns, vocalist and guitarist of that band, on this show before, and I see him at a lot of shows, so it's always nice to run into him. And Stay Inside, if you have not heard them, check them out. I'm a big fan of their most recent LP, Ferried Away. It came out in 2024, and it's definitely one of my favorite newer, let's say, emo releases in recent times. They're not just a straight emo band. They do a lot of interesting stuff, but I haven't heard a band that sounds quite like that I like as much as Stay Inside in a while. And Respire played their first New York City show, and I'm so glad that I got to witness it because they were supposed to be down here, I think, late last year, and then they ran into some problems at the border, and they didn't get the paperwork in time. Something was going on, and I saw they came back and played Connecticut and other places that were not Brooklyn. I didn't get a chance to see them. I thought I missed my shot, and I was bummed out, but they played. I saw them. They opened with Bound, which is the first song I ever heard by them. The song that grabbed me and made me a fan of the band forever, and the set was phenomenal. I got to say hello and talk to Rohan and Egan, who have both been on the show. They're the vocalist and guitarists for the band, and they had like a 6 or 7 member setup with violin and everything else, and it was amazing. Definitely one of the best live sets I've seen this year so far. I've got a lot more show recaps coming up. I went to the Orange 9mm Quicksand Refused show. That was the final Refused tour ever. And I'll have a recap of the Memory Entry EP release show coming up as well. So plenty more to look forward to. And that is it for this week. That's all I've got. I'm back next week with 2 new guests. 2. And it's going to be good. I'll see you then.